Most NFL offseasons have one or two trades that set the NFL ablaze and make fans of other NFL teams wish that their fan base had made that trade instead. However, this offseason, there's a handful of superstars being shopped, including players with a combined 32 Pro Bowls, a mind-blowing 21 combined All-Pro nods, 5 MVPs, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and finally a combined 3 Super Bowl championships. There are rising young stars on this list, old aging veterans looking to add some late career Lombardis, but maybe most impressively, the first player on this list is the best defensive player of our generation, maybe of all time, and he might be looking to move on simply because he wants to win. Work! Some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy, like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Aaron Donald is the best defensive player of our generation, racking up 105 sacks, 160 tackles for a loss, and 237 QB hits, all on the road to winning not only 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, but also a Super Bowl with the Rams in 2021. However, just 1 year later, and the Rams finished second to last in their division, had lost 12 games, and that Super Bowl that they had won a year ago is fading from relevance faster than Aaron Donald can manhandle an offensive lineman. Donald has made it clear that his only task left in football is to win championships, and he even admitted that he was thinking about retirement in 2022 after winning his only ring. However, Donald remains active, and seeing as the Rams just flipped one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL and are also shopping Matthew Stafford, it looks like the Rams are in full rebuilding mode, going from F those picks to please give us as many picks as possible. In all likelihood, if Donald demands a trade or the Rams get an offer that they simply can't refuse, they'll trade Donald, not only to receive what would be likely a historically large compensation, but also to open up some much needed cap space. The Rams are currently in a weird space salary cap wise. Sure, they have the 13th most cap space in the NFL, but at the same time, as a result of the recent trades they've made, they have the 4th highest dead cap going into 2023 with $50.7 million counting against the cap. Recently, Rams defensive star Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Dolphins, and then just a few months later, another Rams star, Aaron Donald, was seen fraternizing with Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. Listen, I'm not saying that Donald is going to be traded for certain, but if Aaron Donald wants to win, he probably would be better off elsewhere. Unlike the next player on this list, who despite doing nothing wrong and even was a key part in his team's Super Bowl championship, he may find himself on another team next year, even after expressing that he wants to stay. Just 2 years ago, the Rams traded a haul for aging Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford, and after a storybook season that saw Stafford put up a career-high 41 touchdown passes while winning a Super Bowl, no one could have predicted Matthew Stafford starting off the 2022 season with just 10 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, with a record of 3-6 as a starter before being forced to miss the rest of the season with a spinal cord contusion. Stafford went from on top of the world to on the trade block, as it seems like the Rams are content with their single Super Bowl championship and are looking to flip Stafford, not because he's bad, but because he is due over $100 million over the course of the next 3 seasons. If you're thinking, why don't the Rams just cut him? Well, it's because if he is cut in 2024, Stafford would count as $91 million of dead cap, meaning if the Rams want to get younger at the quarterback position while also moving on from Matthew Stafford, as it is reported that they want to do, they have to trade him. Stafford will be going into his age 35 season next year, and after coming back from a spinal cord injury, there is no guarantee that he will be the same quarterback the Rams had when they won the Super Bowl. Sure, there's a chance he comes back as the same player, maybe even better, but the chances of that happening are significantly less than the chance that he drops off. The Rams have reportedly made it very clear that they're shopping Stafford, and honestly, it probably wouldn't take much to acquire the former Lion. However, the hard truth is that the Rams are learning in real time that nobody wants a quarterback coming off of a major injury, let alone a QB who doesn't even know how long he will play in the NFL. Just like the next player on on this list who seemingly is already traded, but for one reason or another might find himself somewhere that he didn't expect next season. After emerging from the darkness like Darth Vader at the end of the Revenge of the Sith, Aaron Rodgers made it clear that his intentions were to play for the New York Jets in the 2023 season.
Yeah, I think since Friday, I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
However, after the deal was already agreed upon, the New York Jets appear to be trying to alter the deal last minute after Aaron Rodgers has made it widely known that he is unsure whether or not he wants to play beyond the 2023 season. For the longest time, it was unclear whether or not the Packers were asking too much, or if the Jets were negotiating in bad faith. However, the most recent report indicates that the Jets are holding up the trade after compensation was already agreed upon, not the Packers, which is odd when you remember that the Jets haven't had a winning season since 2015, and their current quarterback room consists of Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. If these negotiations go on long enough, the Jets won't be the only team in the Rodgers sweepstakes, and the compensation the Packers will receive will only continue to grow larger if another team enters the bidding war. Technically, there is a possibility that Rodgers returns to the Packers in 2023. However, seeing as Rodgers and Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst have said many contradictory statements since the start of the offseason,
when I came out of the darkness, something changed. I'm not exactly sure what that was, but something changed. I just think I wish that in the beginning of the offseason, that had been the conversation.
He comes out a couple weeks ago and says you basically went behind his back to shop him and he didn't seem too pleased. From your perspective, how did the last couple months kind of transpire?
Yeah, I didn't really take his comments like that, and it's certainly not true.
That possibility is about as likely as Rodgers being traded to the Bears. Some other teams have already reportedly been interested in Aaron Rodgers, such as the Tennessee Titans, and maybe, and this is just a shot in the dark, maybe the Baltimore Ravens if they get rid of Lamar Jackson? However, the truth is there won't be another team interested in Rodgers besides the Jets until after the NFL draft, when certain teams will not get the quarterback that they've wanted for the past few months. If the Jets want to make Aaron Rodgers their quarterback in 2023 and start a bidding war before it starts, it is in their best interest to get this trade done before the NFL draft. Similar to the next player on this list who has won an MVP and put up historic numbers, but for some reason has one of the smallest free agency pools for a player of his caliber. Lamar Jackson was an MVP, former All-Pro, and has a playoff victory, meaning he has accomplished more in his career already than most starting quarterbacks in the NFL. For some weird reason, he hasn't been offered a contract that he feels like he deserves. Jackson has a career passer rating of 96.7, putting him above other notable quarterbacks like Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, and even Matt Ryan. And of course, he has that trademark running ability that made him so popular to begin with. But the one huge red flag surrounding Lamar Jackson is his injury history. Jackson hasn't been able to complete a full 16 or 17 game season since becoming the full-time starter in 2018. To make matters even worse, Lamar Jackson encountered his worst injury to date in 2022 after suffering a grade 2 ankle sprain in week 13 and was forced to miss the rest of the season and postseason. Many people thought that Lamar was going to stay in Baltimore after the Ravens signed Odell Beckham Jr. However, OBJ has since come out and said that the Ravens made no guarantee that Jackson would be back in 2023. Meaning signing OBJ was probably a last-ditch effort to appease Lamar Jackson, and since it hasn't seemed to work so far, it seemed like Jackson is on his way out of Baltimore. Patriots head coach and general manager Bill Belichick has made it clear that he likes Jackson's game. However, since then, contradictory reports have come out of New England stating that they're no longer interested in Jackson. Just like Rodgers, I suspect Jackson's market will widen after the draft once teams are able to get the quarterbacks that they've wanted. If the Colts can't get the rookie QB that they want at number 4, don't be shocked if they make a move to grab Lamar Jackson, or if the season approaches closer and the Patriots don't think Mac Jones has made enough progress going into year 3, keep an eye out for Bill Belichick trying to snag Jackson. The next player on this list could end up being traded to the same team as Jackson, which would give him a future Hall of Famer lining up right next to him. In late March, DeAndre Hopkins requested a trade from the Arizona Cardinals, and soon after, the Arizona Cardinals gave DeAndre Hopkins and his agent permission to seek trade partners. It is now late April, and DeAndre Hopkins still hasn't been traded to a new team. However, it is nearly guaranteed at this point that we will be seeing the 5-time All-Pro switch teams. However, the same can't be said for his teammate later on down this list. DeAndre Hopkins is a future first ballot Hall of Famer, raking in over 11,000 receiving yards so far in his career, and has made it very clear that he would agree to alter his contract with a new team if it meant being able to play for a contender. In a recent video where Hopkins didn't say a word, instead using body language to speak for himself, it appeared as if DeAndre Hopkins wasn't interested in playing for the Patriots or the Jets, and instead gave smiles and positive affirmation towards the Chiefs and the Bills, the two AFC favorites heading into 2023. Hopkins clearly wants to play for a team that has an established franchise quarterback, seeing as he doesn't want to play with Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, and also is leaving Kyler Murray in Arizona, a quarterback with a ton of hype that hasn't fully materialized into the franchise QB he was perceived to be. In addition to all of this, the Cardinals didn't do themselves any favors when trading for Marquise Hollywood Brown last season, as it probably isolated DeAndre Hopkins even further and indicated to him that when both him and Brown's contracts are up, they'll probably re-sign the much younger wide receiver, not the nearly 32-year-old receiver. Hopkins won't fetch more than a second-round pick at best on the open market, seeing as his production has steadily dropped since arriving in Arizona, and the fact that he's in his 30s now. However, that doesn't mean he can't go off for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Only time will tell whether or not DeAndre Hopkins can have a second-half career renaissance, unlike the next two players on this list who are just getting started in their potential Hall of Fame careers. After just 3 seasons in the NFL, T. Higgins joins the exclusive 3,000 yards in 3 seasons played club, joining a long list of All-Pros and Hall of Famers. T. Higgins has just 1 year remaining on his contract, and after the Bengals drafted Ja'Marr Chase just 2 years prior, it seems as if all the money in the receiving room is on its way to number 1 when the Bengals have to extend him. In addition to signing Ja'Marr Chase, the Bengals also need to eventually pay Joe Burrow, his offensive line, potentially even Tyler Boyd, since he's a free agent after the 2023 season as well. So why not just get rid of Tyler Boyd and use that money to re-sign Higgins, you may ask? It's a simple answer. Higgins is one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL, and once he hits the free agent market, he is going to get paid double, maybe even triple what Tyler Boyd is currently under contract for. Higgins held down the number 1 receiver role while Chase was away with injury, proving that he has the potential to be a number 1 receiver on his own team, and he's looking to get paid like it too. However, the only remaining question is what team will he play for? Well, the Bengals would probably want to trade him out of the conference so they never have to worry about game planning against him. So a wide receiver needy team in the NFC who is looking to build around a young quarterback is the ideal landing spot for a guy like T. Higgins. Some perfect spots would be the Green Bay Packers, the New York Giants, and even the Carolina Panthers. Similar to the next player on this list, who proved that last season he's capable of being a number 1 receiver and is actively being shopped around. Unlike T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy has just recently established himself as a number 1 receiver, catching 6 of his 9 career touchdown passes in just last season. However, don't let those low counting numbers deceive you, because Jerry Jeudy is a stud who has just suffered from having poor quarterback play over the course of his career in Denver. Some of the starting QBs that Jeudy has played with include Drew Lock, Brett Rypien, and Jeff Driscoll, Teddy Bridgewater, and a nearly 35-year-old Russell Wilson who struggled mightily in his first season with Denver. The point I'm trying to make is that Jeudy hasn't put up impressive numbers because he doesn't have the quarterback to deliver him the football. Even with Russell Wilson struggling last season, Jeudy broke out with 67 receptions, just under 1,000 receiving yards, and 6 touchdown receptions, which are all career highs for Jeudy. Now, if Jerry Jeudy is so good, how come he's on the trade block? Well, it's simply because the Denver Broncos need to decide this offseason whether or not they want to pick up Jeudy's 5th-year option, and they don't think they have enough evidence to put him on an option that could pay him nearly $15 million in 2024. So instead of picking up the option or letting him walk after 4 years, they're trying to move Jerry Jeudy for some compensation, just like what the Lions did with Jeff Okudah. Fortunately for the Broncos, though, Jerry Jeudy has been on the block since at least mid-season last year, and if no one was willing to trade a first-round pick for him then no one will be willing to give up a first for him now. Unlike the next player on this list who could be traded for a first-round pick, maybe even more, Budda Baker is one of, if not the best safety in the NFL. As a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 3-time All-Pro, he's looking to become the highest-paid safety in the NFL, just not in Arizona. Baker's coming off of one of his best seasons to date, finishing with a pair of interceptions, a forced fumble, 7 pass deflections, and a whopping 111 sacks, 7 of them being solo. Baker is one of the most versatile safeties in the NFL, as he can play off-the-ball linebacker, on-the-ball, deep cover 2, man coverage on the outside, nickelback, and basically whatever you need Budda to do, he can do it. Now, what's unique about this situation is that the Cardinals actually do have the cap space to pay Baker. The only issue is that the Cardinals are in the middle of a rebuilding phase, as they just hired both a brand new coach and general manager. And instead of sticking around for a rebuild, Baker would like to use the last seasons of his prime fighting for a championship. And honestly, can you blame him? However, what makes this situation different from his teammate DeAndre Hopkins' situation is the fact fact that the team doesn't want to trade Baker, whereas the Cardinals view Hopkins as old and past his prime. Baker's viewed as young, in his prime, and potentially even getting better. If Baker's adamant about getting out of Arizona, the Cardinals will be forced to move the 5-time Pro Bowler, and even though the safety class in the 2023 NFL Draft is deeper than usual, Baker is so good that if he was traded for a first-round pick, it would still be a steal. However, an anonymous NFL executive says that his value is just somehow a day 2 pick. Similar to Baker, the next player on this list has requested a trade a long time ago, but for some reason, his team won't move on from him. After the Bengals signed 4-time Pro Bowler Orlando Brown Jr. to a 4-year, $64 million deal, just a single day later, former first-round pick and starting left tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jonah Williams, has requested a trade. It's clear that the Bengals signed Brown to play left tackle and planned on moving Jonah Williams over to the right tackle position. However, it probably would have been smart to consult Jonah Williams about this before they even tried to pull the switch. The two main reasons Jonah Williams is angry about this is because 1, he has to switch sides, and 2, right tackles make significantly less money than left tackles. For starters, imagine trying to write cursive with your right hand after writing in cursive with your left hand for the first 20 years of your life. Think that's hard? Now try blocking 300-pound athletes switching stances, switching dominant hands, and yeah, you get the point. Switching sides of the offensive line is a huge task, and it can take years for a player to get as proficient on one side of the line as they are on the other side of the line. As for number 2, the reason right tackles make less money than left tackles is because most quarterbacks in the NFL are right-handed, so therefore their blind side is the left side of the offensive line. A quarterback with mobility can see the rush from the right side of the line and move out of the way, unlike the left side where they can't see the pressure whatsoever and are forced to rely more on their tackle than their instincts. If the Bengals can convince Jonah Williams to stay, it would be huge for their offensive line, just like the next player on this list who also requested a trade, but similar to Jonah Williams might not get his way. Austin Ekeler has a combined 3,195 yards and 38 touchdowns on 5.4 yards per touch, all in just the last 2 seasons. Yeah, that's right. Ekeler scored 38 times in just 33 games started. If you haven't won or lost a game in fantasy football because of Austin Ekeler, then that just means you don't play fantasy football, because Ekeler has been making or breaking entire leagues for years now. However, despite being a superstar in all of our fantasy football hearts, Austin Ekeler is severely underpaid for the production that he's been putting out for the last few seasons. How underpaid? Well, he's going to make just $6.25 million in 2023 after leading the NFL in scoring in back-to-back seasons. For this reason alone, Ekeler has requested a trade in hopes of signing a new contract. However, since the running back position is so flush with talent at the moment, it seems as if nobody is interested in a now 28-year-old running back, which is like a 40-year-old at any other position. With the way the NFL is now, you can draft a running back in the 3rd or 4th round and get similar production to a top-tier halfback for half the price. I'm not saying Ekeler doesn't have a spot in the NFL, because he certainly does. However, the days of running backs holding out for more money and resetting the market yearly are now simply over, because the position runs through players like Derrick Henry runs through defenders. However, with that being said, don't be shocked if you see Ekeler lining up in another jersey that isn't powder blue and yellow next year. Did I miss anyone, or do you think another player is going to be traded? Who are some of the sleeper superstars you think are going to be on a new team next year? What are some moves your favorite team needs to make in order to reach the next level next season? Let us know in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.